Ma'am, you scoot a little bit that way. Just a little bit that way.
Me?
And just a little bit. Just right there, right there. You're good right there. Scoot a little bit that way. Hey.
Are looking for Air Force Two right now. We know that they are making their way from the East Valley. At last check, they were near Tempe, but definitely inching closer to Sky Harbor here. And we can actually see it off into the distance. I want to get my photographer to kind of move around here. Sorry for it being a little jerky, but it's behind the trees there. You'll be able to see it coming through, hopefully within the next few seconds here. But really, a lot of people out here just wanting to watch this moment. Again, a lot of people with their phones out, with American flags out, even people driving through the Sky Harbor here through the airport are even asking us out their window, shouting, you know, is this for Charlie Kirk? So I think a lot of people do know that he had a really big presence here and was being brought back here today. So Derek, kind of, you know, walk us through what you're seeing.
Yeah, you know, as the plane touches down, I wanted to just show folks some of the emotional moments as the casket was loaded onto Air Force Two earlier. You know, the casket is accompanied by the Vice President JD Vance and his wife. We also know that on board Air Force Two, as it touches down, is Charlie Kirk's widow, and there's an image I have to show you because it's just heartbreaking and it's circulating. But that appears to be her right there, Erica, and she's obviously very, very emotional there, understandably so. Here's another photo just shortly after Air Force Two took off from Utah as the plane, leaves, and you can see a hearse down here. You can also see a military style folk, in fatigues down there. And I can tell you, X is just blowing up with this right now. So many people sending their well wishes to the Kirk family. So many people just distraught by this, grappling with this act of violence to, against someone that they really admired and really looked up to, certainly on the conservative side of the political aisle. Here's a look at the flight aware data, but you can see the plane is now touched down. It's on the ground. It took off. I don't yet have the exact time when it took off and the exact flight times yet, but that should be coming in pretty soon, guys. But that's the very latest here in the newsroom. I'll send it back to you.
Derek, thank you. And in case you're just joining us, Air Force Two, the Vice President's plane just touching down at Sky Harbor, carrying, as we've been mentioning, the casket of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, who was assassinated yesterday in Utah. Again, on the plane is Vice President JD Vance, who flew to Salt Lake yesterday after he was killed to retrieve Kirk's body. And that was yesterday at a Utah university. Vance and Second Lady Usha Vance are traveling with Kirk's family and some of his friends, we are told, as they have just touched down in Arizona.
That 31-year-old leaving behind his wife, that image that Derek had just showed of his wife on the tarmac is just absolutely heartbreaking. To see the raw emotion there. He also leaves behind 2 young children. So you are seeing the grief and you are feeling it in your gut, no matter what side of the aisle you are on. At the end of the day, this is a life. This is a man who had 2 young children and a wife who he leaves behind. He was in Utah yesterday for the first leg of one of 15 of one of his Turning Points speaking engagements to really get kids talking. Whether you agreed with him or if you did not, it was an open table discussion. And he had a friend of his who had said, hey, look, maybe we shouldn't go to these events because they are becoming so dangerous. But he insisted, no, I want to have this open conversation. So just to give you an idea of why he pushed so much for these type of events. We do want to go back to our Alexis Dominguez. She is live at Sky Harbor Airport. Alexa, 4:46, just 3 minutes ago, Air Force Two touching down. Has anything changed there behind you? I know that they put the media just a bit farther away from where everything is happening.
Yeah, so we are right across the street, really, to give you a better idea. You can see Air Force Two right there, right behind the gates there. So it's an extremely emotional, time for everyone really watching this. I think despite where you stood, it's still a very hard thing to imagine happening to anyone in your family. We know that his casket is set to be carried off the plane there. For many, it really marks not only the return of Charlie Kirk to the state where he lived with his wife and 2 kids, but also a really painful reminder of how violently his life was cut short. So you can see a lot of communication here with people on the ground, whether that's Secret Service, and Phoenix Police, a lot of communication that we've seen here through the different agencies out here. At this point, we do know that a motorcycle, an officer on a motorcycle is kind of stopping traffic, trying to make sure that no cars are coming this way while this is all happening. You can also see that shuttle moving in closer to the gates. And we can also see that the door is now opening on Air Force Two, and so we're not really sure of what we might be able to see at this view, but it's definitely a very powerful, emotional moment. A lot of people with their phones out watching this moment with their families. They have their kids out here, American flags. A lot of supporters wanted to come out here and show their support for Charlie Kirk. And you can see a lot of people now starting to come out the doors of Air Force Two there. Kind of a somber moment, honestly, to kind of watch this happening. Again, a lot of us saw the violent videos on social media. So it is, a very hard thing for a lot of people to grapple with. And I'm sure a lot of people on that flight, may have known Kirk, may have known his family. He was really a pivotal person when it came to the Make America Great Again movement. He also encouraged a lot of people to speak their minds. A lot of the people that we spoke to just in the past several hours really liked that he was honest and, shared his beliefs. Derek, kind of walk us through what you're seeing.
Yeah, well, what I'm seeing right now is that people are deplaning Air Force Two, and then a bus pulled up and is now blocking our view. But it looked like a number of folks have just stepped off the plane, stepping off onto the tarmac there. Can't say for certain. That may be intentional. They know where all the media is, and that bus might be there to kind of shield the view. I don't know. But what I do know is that on social media right now, there were a lot of people monitoring all of this. People were kind of live tweeting as the plane was coming into Sky Harbor, and they wrote things like this: "Angels are flying with them." They absolutely are. Another person wrote, "Welcome home, Charlie." Another person wrote a religious quote, "Hallelujah." There's another one that said, "Though your journey on earth may have ended, you are forever impacted. You have forever impacted our hearts and souls." On his way home in the FlightAware data, almost home, FlightAware data. So you can get a sense just how many lives this man touched. This one I thought was pretty poignant from a poster named Jenny Hartman. She wrote, "I'm so glad that JD," referring to the Vice President, "was the one to bring Charlie and his family home. I'm sure Charlie would have been happy to know that his good friend was there to help pick up the pieces for his family." Speaking of his family, I showed you earlier the photo of widow Erica Kirk. That's her in the middle there, obviously emotional. I've been checking her social media pages to see if she's said anything. She has not posted anything. The last thing that she posted was this. This is yesterday. She often posts quotes from the Bible. This is from Psalm 46:1. She posted this just about 2 hours before the shooting. The timestamp might be, I might be dealing with different time zones here, so that might be not totally accurate, but shortly before the shooting, she posted this. It says, "God is our refuge and our strength, a very present help in trouble." And certainly seems to ring true in a moment like this, guys. I'll send it back to you.
All right, Derek, thank you very much. And we are trying to get more information as far as what is going to take place after these moments, after Charlie Kirk's casket is taken off of Air Force Two. We do know that President Trump said that he will attend Kirk's funeral service, but the information as to the logistics on that, very limited right now. If you are just joining us, we have been watching Air Force Two land. It landed there at Sky Harbor Airport at 4:46, 9 minutes ago, with the coffin casket of former Turning Point co-founder Charlie Kirk, along with his widow Erica, Vice President JD Vance, and his wife, along with some of their friends, flying in from Utah. Kirk was in Utah at a university there yesterday, speaking with a group of college kids when he was shot and killed. Tonight, the search continues for the person behind that gun.
So what we don't know and what we're trying to figure out at this point, now that the plane has landed, we do know that his funeral will happen here. Charlie Kirk's funeral will happen here. We do not know where, and we don't know which day. We are trying to figure those things out. We don't know what will happen now that it has landed. Where is everybody going? Which church? We are working right now in our newsroom trying to figure that out. As far as suspects and what law enforcement is doing at this moment, they have multiple leads, they say, in the hunt for Kirk's killer. No suspect is in custody. As you know, there has been multiple suspects who have been let go. We do have pictures of who they think is the person of interest at this moment. All right, we're going to go back out to Alexis, who is at Sky Harbor. Alexis, I have to ask you, I know you're pretty far away from where the actual plane is, but you did say there are a lot of people out there. Are you close enough to people to have heard any reaction to, it's one thing to know what happened yesterday. It's one thing to know that the plane was coming here today with his body inside, but when the plane landed, Did you hear any chatter from folks who are out there just observing what's going on?
It seemed pretty silent. I think a lot of people have a lot of emotions going on. And while we are kept away, we are also cordoned off to a specific area for the media. So because this involves Secret Service and Air Force Two, we really aren't allowed anywhere besides the area where we have been. So I want to step out of the way just to kind of give you a look at, again, what's happening out here. So a lot of us still really waiting to see as far as what we can see. We know that Kirk's casket will most likely be carried off the plane, but many of us just trying to wait and see when that moment might be. A lot of vehicles parked out there, and we did see several people come out of Air Force Two. I tried to move around a little bit to an area where I could get a better vantage point, and so we know that both doors on Air Force Two are open, but still waiting to see what we can see as far as the casket and the Kirk family. Going to be sending it back to you guys. Reporting live here from the airport, Alexis Dominguez for Arizona's Family.
All right, Alexis, great work out there. We're going to reset. We're going to get more information and figure out from some of our crews who have a better vantage point than us. Also figure out all of the other things that are forthcoming that will happen after, now that the plane has landed here in Arizona. And as we know, Charlie Kirk and his wife, his family lived here in Arizona, and the funeral, we are told, will happen here next weekend.
And we do have a reporter also heading to Turning Point headquarters. We had seen last night that there was a strong presence there. I can only imagine that it will be the same here today. So we have our reporters in different areas around the city continuing to follow the death of Kirk and what happens following forward. We do have our Jared and Nicole following this in our 5 o'clock hour with the latest.
Arizona's Family starts with breaking news.
All right, Vanessa, Yetta, and Derek, thank you. We are going to continue now our coverage of the new developments surrounding the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Air Force Two just arrived, as you've been watching, over at Sky Harbor Airport. The Vice President and his wife escorting Charlie Kirk's body back here to Phoenix tonight.
The conservative activist was shot and killed yesterday at a rally on campus at Utah Valley University. And let's go ahead and take a live look from Sky Harbor Airport right now, as we've been taking a look at Air Force Two. This is the Vice President's main plane on the tarmac out there, and he was coming in with JD Vance and Second Lady Usha Vance with Charlie Kirk's body, Charlie Kirk's family. We know that his widow, Erica, flew out to Utah yesterday and was on the flight today. We don't know the other details of who exactly was also on that flight, but we know that his family also was flown out. They lived here in Scottsdale, Jared, so it's a homecoming for the family.
And this is a highly unusual honor to have Air Force One or Air Force Two escort the body of somebody who's been killed back to their home city. But I think it speaks to a couple things, Nicole. I think it speaks to the importance and the influence Charlie Kirk had in American politics, and also speaks to his strong friendship with Vice President Vance and Donald Trump Jr. Vance writing, you know, Charlie Kirk didn't help us win last year. He helped staff the entire Trump administration as well. So that is why we're seeing him get this unusual honor from the Vice President today. Vance was supposed to be in New York City for a 9/11 ceremony this morning. Instead, he flew to Utah.
A lot of last-minute changes to events and protocols because of the safety, assignments that have been happening since the assassination. Now law enforcement confirming it was a political assassination of Charlie Kirk yesterday. So the president was supposed to speak at the Pentagon outside for a 9/11 event this morning, spoke inside instead. And again, all these different parameters that are taking place. And our Alexis Dominguez is standing by at Sky Harbor tonight, where this flight was supposed to come in little bit about 2 hours ago, Alexis. So it's been a bit of a delay, but I know this is something that everybody's been kind of standing by to have happen today.
Yeah, I think a lot of moving parts whenever you have any kind of Air Force One or Air Force Two, touching down at an airport. But you can really see just all the different agencies that have been working together on this to make sure it goes as smoothly as possible. And we do have a lot of things kind of obstructing our view, so it's kind of hard to really see what's going on. But it seems to be a lot of movement, behind those gates here at the executive terminal. Earlier today, we also heard some bagpipes, and so kind of a sense of a lot of patriotism. We have a lot of supporters here who also have their flags, and we again have a lot of law enforcement out here just making sure that this scene is safe. Us as media have been kind of put into a corner while supporters are kind of in another corner, but you can see that the snipers are on the roof there of the executive terminal, still waiting to kind of see what we can see as far as the casket and Kirk's body being carried off the plane. We did see a hearse earlier, and we expect that his family will now be planning his funeral in the upcoming days. So still kind of waiting to hear more on what that'll look like, but we do know that the president has said that he expects to be here for that. So I'm going to send it back to you guys, back in the studio, reporting live here from Sky Harbor. Alexis Dominguez for Arizona's Family.
Alexis, thank you. And yeah, it's difficult because oftentimes when we have a presidential, vice presidential, official visit to the Valley, we have a much clearer shot of Air Force One, Air Force Two, and we are being kept at a greater distance. So we are working to try. There's also flight restrictions for drones and our chopper to get the best vantage shot, but we're trying to effort that for you. And of course, we're waiting for more of the information on the protocol, what's going to happen. We believe that his casket will then be taken to a funeral home. We will have a chopper following that motorcade as it leaves Sky Harbor and then heads to the funeral home in advance. That's where he'll likely be held until his services.
It's a far different situation from when Air Force One or Air Force Two typically lands. It's normally a celebratory thing. Right. A president, vice president here for something exciting to make an announcement. Sure. There's a big greeting party that goes out to the airport. This is a far different situation, and you know that they're trying to give the family some privacy, even though we do have a picture of the stairs there to see who ends up coming out of the plane, in addition to the Vice President, the Second Lady, and Charlie Kirk's widow, and possibly other friends and family members. Let's check in with Derek Stahl in our newsroom tonight. Derek, you've been following developments closely for us this evening. What are you seeing from your vantage point?
Well, I can see in the monitors here what looks like the casket just above the wing. I'll point to it here. They're getting it into position, it looks like, to wheel it out in front of the crowd. We have the hearse is over here on the left-hand side, and a large group of folks here, but it looks to me like that was the casket there. I can also fill in some of the blanks when it comes to the relationship between Vice President JD Vance and Charlie Kirk. You can see in this video, I'll have to click on this one to get that thing out of the way, but you can see the Vice President escorting the casket onto Air Force Two personally. And as Jared mentioned earlier, he rescheduled his day to be there. This was really important to him. Here's a photo of the two of them at an event some time ago. And the Vice President posted a very long message on X about his relationship with Charlie Kirk today. And it goes back to 2017. And I want to read just a bit of it. It says, a while ago, probably in 2017, I appeared on Tucker Carlson's Fox show to talk about God knows what. Afterwards, a name I barely knew sent me a DM on Twitter and told me I did a great job. It was Charlie Kirk. And that moment of kindness began a friendship that lasted until today. Charlie was fascinated by ideas and always willing to learn and change his mind. Like me, he was skeptical of Donald Trump in 2016. Like me, he came to see President Trump as the only figure capable of moving American politics away from the globalism that had dominated them for our entire lives. And he goes on to describe other moments. He said, Charlie was one of the first people I called when I thought about running for Senate in early 2021. I was, skeptical, and he wanted to get Charlie Kirk's input, Charlie Kirk's advice. I mean, this was a person in Charlie Kirk who was a really trusted political advisor to some of the most important politicians in the Republican Party. And, as it goes on, the Vice President describes the moment that he found out that Charlie Kirk had been shot, he said, "I was in a meeting in the West Wing when those group chats started lighting up with people telling Charlie they were praying for him, and that's how I learned the news that my friend had been shot. I prayed a lot over the next hour as first good news and then bad trickled in. God didn't answer those prayers, and that's okay. He had other plans. And now that Charlie is in heaven, I'll ask him to talk to Big Man directly on behalf of his family, his friends, and the country he loves so dearly. You ran a good race, my friend. We've got it from here." So that kind of sums it up. From the Vice President, you can get a sense of just how close these two words, relationship, built over, the last 8 years or so. The other element I wanted to share is this photo right here, which I think is probably the most striking image of the day. That's Erica Kirk on the tarmac in Utah as the casket is loaded into Air Force Two, and you can see the emotion on her face there. And I think a lot of people are feeling for her and feeling for the family right now. I've been checking Erica Kirk's social media pages. She has not posted since yesterday. She kind of does a daily prayer post often. Her daily prayer post yesterday morning before the shooting was this. It says, "God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble." And a lot of people have drawn on that and seen that as kind of prescient and obviously very important. So that's the very latest here in the newsroom. Nicole and Jared, I'll send it back to you.
Derek, when you showed us that photo earlier of Erica, that's the photo of a woman whose life has just been shattered. And I thought, if you are the spouse of a political figure, a celebrity, even a firefighter or a police officer, the worst case scenario has to play through your mind whenever your spouse goes off to work. And I mean, I know he had security there, he had police there, but you're in that public setting. And after all of the attacks we've had on other political figures over the last few years, this worst case scenario, I have to think, maybe had been in the back of her mind, as he headed off to work, as he headed off to these different events around the country. Clearly, it's in the minds now of other politicians who are canceling their events.
Yeah, as you keep her photo up, in a recent Instagram post, she said there are some things too deep for words, and this was before she lost her husband. Love, when they're rightly ordered under God, becomes not merely affection, but an offering, a calling. I do not love my husband with a shallow, fleeting fondness. I love him with the gravity of a vow, the steady fire of a heart that knows. It was God who chose him for me and me for him. And she talks about how she doesn't idolize him, she doesn't worship him, but she admires him with everything she has. And it's a joy to follow him, to lift him in prayer. And it's a very lengthy post, but it just talks about her fondness for him doing what she believes he believed he was called to do, and ultimately led to where we are today, unfortunately. Someone taking his life. On the right-hand side, the live look from Sky Harbor. In the bottom corner, you can see a white car. That's the one we're told will carry Charlie Kirk's casket to the funeral home from here. A live look from Sky Harbor Airport, where Air Force Two touched down not too long ago, and we've just been standing by. It's hard to make out who is on the tarmac there. As you can see that they're gathered. We're being kept at a respectful distance, but just a lot of strong emotions out there. His team here, a lot of people didn't realize, is based in South Phoenix, Turning Point USA, based in South Phoenix, with chapters at schools all across the country, making tours all over the country, and yeah, based right here in Phoenix.
I did hear from a couple people yesterday who said this was the first time they'd ever heard of Charlie Kirk. If you're not in that kind of political world, if he doesn't appear in your algorithm on social media, you might not have heard of him. But the reason this is getting so much attention nationwide is because of the huge influence he has on American politics, the huge following he has on politics, and also the friendship that he struck up with Donald Trump Jr. and then JD Vance. And that is frankly how we ended up with JD Vance turning from a never Trumper years ago to now the vice president and Trump's running mate. And
Charlie Kirk kind of got connected with the Trump family because he was Don Trump Jr.'s kind of assistant in 2016, and he was carrying around stuff, ferrying, catching him coffee and all those things, and then rose through the ranks real quick to become a trusted advisor. President Trump announcing that he will bestow on him the Presidential Medal of Freedom posthumously, And also, there is an effort to push legislation for a congressional gold medal as well. And we would be remiss if we didn't mention there are critics who say, you know, so much pomp and circumstance for a man who was beloved by many, but also had a lot of critics out there who really disagreed with many of the things that he said.
Well, he was quite divisive, obviously, with his politics. But that's the nature of politics, I think, these days. And right now, everybody's thoughts are just with his wife and 2 young children. As this plays out, the search for a gunman continues. Derek, I think you are just getting some new information in the newsroom. Is that correct? Are we going back to Derek with that? Okay,
yeah. Just
Derek,
moments ago, we just got new photos of the suspected shooter. This is from the Utah Department of Public Safety, and they are much clearer than the previous photos we have. So here you go. You can see a person with dark, short hair. You can also see this Land of the Free, Home of the Brave shirt that other sources have identified as being part of a national organization for wounded veterans. That's photo number 1. Let me show you photo number 2 because it has a clear image of a backpack. You can also see the hat there. It's like a trucker hat with kind of a mesh back. Also, he's got Converse shoes down there and what looks like jeans. So this is a much, much higher resolution photo than we previously saw. There's another one here from the side. And you can see, you know, a little bit of additional features. He's wearing the sunglasses there. I think there's one more image that we just got. Here we go. So this one is actually looks like from outside. The other 3 looks like they're from the inside of a stairwell. So we're getting that information. Let me show you what the latest is from our partners at CBS News. You know, they have been reporting that federal law enforcement believes they have identified the name of a person of interest. They have not yet issued an arrest warrant or anything like that. There's no one in custody, but it seems like, you know, from the breadcrumbs that we're getting from law enforcement sources is that they are making some progress. We also know that the U.S. Marshals are now assisting the FBI with this investigation. That's significant because the U.S. Marshals are the ones that actually go out and do, you know, fugitive captures. They are the experts in that realm. And I can also walk through, you know, the timeline because we're getting more information on the timeline. But Jared and Nicole, I just wanted to break in with that information of those new photos of the suspect because we haven't seen anything like this all day.
And we appreciate it because the social feeds have been just sharing those really grainy pictures up until now. As you keep that up on the left-hand side of the screen, law enforcement confirming that they do have a shoe print, a palm print, a forearm print that they're analyzing at this point. And they've confirmed that they found the weapon, a .30-06 rifle, in a wooded area. And they're processing that right now, waiting to get more confirmation on exactly what they found alongside that rifle. But there's a lot of evidence they have at this point. They just need to find the man.
Yeah.
Sorry, Derek, go ahead.
I was going to build off what Nicole was saying there about the shoe print and the palm print. We can see the palm print actually in this video here. This was shot by Reuters earlier today, and it shows you the courtyard outside Sorensen Center. That's where Charlie Kirk was in that tent. But if I kind of fast forward a little bit, it goes to the rooftop of the Lossy Center. Here we go. So I don't know if you can see this. Brian can get in really close. But the rooftop of the Lossy Center was actually kind of a gravel rooftop. And these little pink dots are evidence markers. And you can see what looks like, you know, the shoe print, the elbow print, etc. So when law enforcement is talking about those prints, it seems to me like that's what they're talking about up here on the rooftop. All right, I'll send it back to you guys.
I mean, 30 hours after he was shot, still a lot of questions about how this investigation is being handled. I know the FBI director is flying, or it has flown now to Utah to be on scene and handle or oversee the investigation personally, because there were a lot of missteps yesterday, a lot of naming persons of interest who ended up being released who had nothing to do with this whatsoever. And a lot of questions about the leaks that have come out as well as they continue searching for the real suspect.
FBI today announcing a $100,000 reward for an arrest.
Yeah. Let's go back down on the ground to Sky Harbor Airport, which is where Alexis Dominguez is standing by now. Alexis, what are you seeing?
Yeah, well, it's quite hard to kind of see from this viewpoint, but we do see that a couple of the officers on motorcycles are starting to kind of get in place. So it looks like the motorcade may be taking off from the airport here soon. Again, we do have the shuttle here kind of giving that family privacy, covering really much of what we can see. But I can tell you that I try to move around, and I did see a point where the casket was kind of being brought down from Air Force Two. Earlier we did see a hearse as well. And so it looks like things are kind of starting to move here. We are seeing a little bit of traffic as well, but still a lot more people showing up just within the last hour. I can see, I would say, more than 100 people, lots of people with their kids and kind of a family setting with American flags. So lots of people watching, and then again, lots of people who are driving by kind of shouting out their windows to us, asking if this is for Charlie Kirk. So I think a lot of people, it's catching a lot of people's attention, whether they knew that he was going to be flown back here to Arizona where his family lives. You know, it seems like people are definitely getting word. So again, just kind of speaking to who Charlie Kirk was, a lot of people here in the community are followers. They have been, you know, following him since before the first Trump election. And then, of course, he really empowered a lot of young people to vote, really considered an activist, a political activist, and was all about kind of engaging people in conversation and discussions. And he would do that traveling to different campuses around the nation, and of course here in Arizona. So again, I just kind of want to paint a picture of what it looks like here, but we are seeing kind of the officers get on their motorcycles and get ready for perhaps a motorcade. So as soon as we get word, we'll be sure to keep you guys updated.
Alexis, thank you very much. And as we continue to talk about why this is gaining so much attention, why this is gaining so much coverage, President Trump, after he won re-election last November, he said that Charlie Kirk was one of the top 3 or 4 people he credited with turning out the vote, energizing the vote, specifically the young vote. And we were talking yesterday, part of his legacy will be the 800 or so chapters of Turning Point he has set up in colleges and other schools around the country to help get young people more interested in politics, specifically MAGA politics.
Yeah, they said that he has chapters at 3,500 other high schools, 250,000 student followers. And I saw many of them show up at the Turning Point headquarters in South Phoenix last night, coming there because and it wasn't just young students who were there. It was families bringing their kids there, dropping off notes and mementos, things like that. And as Alexis mentioned, even today, people showing up with flags, just being there at the airport. There is something, a groundswell of support that's going around on social media. We're seeing it as well, of people who just want to be there to show their support. The Turning Point team, I know last night, late at night, had some sort of a celebration of life service for him. It was kind of an impromptu thing, and that was definitely more private. It was more like in towards the inner part of campus, but we could hear them on some megaphones, and they were speaking, but a lot of people were just kind of on the outskirts of the property, gathered by the banners that they had put up under the lowered flags and all the flowers that just amassed there throughout the day. So people are just drawn to want to express their respects in this way. And that's why we're bringing you these live images from Sky Harbor Airport right now.
Yeah, a lot of those makeshift tributes we're going to see, and the funeral, which they're planning right now, is likely to be massive, with the president saying he's going to come here for it as well. There was talk last night about possibly holding it in Chicago, which is where Charlie Kirk is from, but this is where he has called home. He made the Valley his home, so it's likely to be held here in the days ahead. All of this unfolding with that huge question still hanging over us: where is the gunman, and what's being done right now? How close are they to finding this person who they keep releasing kind of not blurry pictures, but you can't get a full facial recognition of this person they're searching for.
Well, he's wearing a hat, he's wearing glasses, but I will say in the latest clear images that Derek was just sharing, because they were leaked on social media earlier, I was like, somebody who knows this human is going to recognize them instantly. And it is interesting the types of things that he was wearing to maybe camouflage a little bit better in that crowd. Let's go ahead and take a look here. If we could take this image full from the airport. Derek, we're seeing the hearse leave the grounds at the airport at this point. And again, we have a flight restriction, so our chopper is up and will cover the motorcade, but it just passed off to the left of the screen there. And we're going to keep following this.
Yeah. I just saw that, the same thing you did. I also saw several bagpipers show up. We've been panning over and showing the crowd. It's a rather large crowd there assembled at Sky Harbor of supporters. And you talk about the search for the suspect. I can walk you through a bit of a timeline here that we've been building from law enforcement and from other sources on social media. But we learned today that the shooter showed up at the campus yesterday at 11:52 a.m. local time, just 8 minutes before Charlie Kirk began his event down here at the Sorensen Center in this courtyard, which is kind of an outdoor grassy amphitheater area. At 12:20, that's when the shot is fired. One shot from a high-powered bolt-action rifle. It hits Kirk down in this area. Police believe it was fired from this spot right up here on the Lossy Center rooftop, which is the rooftop that I showed you that video of, where they have impressions now, a forearm impression and some shoe impressions as well. And I wanted to show you kind of, 12:20 is that exact moment when we get this video right here where the crowd is reacting, and then up here on the rooftop, there's that dot moving the other way. So that seems to be a key moment in the timeline there. Obviously not good from a evidentiary perspective. You can't really tell what that is exactly, but certainly helps you kind of get the timeline of events. 12:23, 3 minutes later, that's when there's a video of Charlie Kirk's personal security staff carrying him into a car, heading this direction, and then they take him to the regional hospital there where he ultimately dies. Fast forward just a couple more minutes, 12:27, that's when we hear some initial dispatch audio where law enforcement calls out the initial description of the suspect. They describe him as, a person on the roof wearing black clothing with a long rifle. And a later call describes some additional details with a tactical gear and a helmet. That later call, there's been conflicting information about whether or not that's accurate, but the initial call does seem to match pretty closely what we see the suspected shooter wearing. A couple hours later, 2:37, there's a search in a neighborhood north of campus, which, based on the way the map is oriented, north is down here. It's very close to where the campus is, and I can show you some of that as well. There was somebody who posted the search here. There it is. You can see a number of kind of plainclothes or tactical gear officers kind of in their neighborhood in an otherwise, quiet residential Utah neighborhood. And then at 2:40 in the afternoon is when President Trump announced online that Charlie Kirk had died. Moving forward, a lot of internet sleuths have been trying to piece together as much detail as they could, based on these grainy photos, and you can see people were able to match pretty quickly this logo on his shirt. It's from the Disabled Veterans National Foundation. It says "Land of the Free, Home of the Brave," so possibly a clue there, although I think the clearer images are really going to be game-changing in this, guys. I'll send it back to you.
On your right, actually, we're taking a live shot from our AZ Family News chopper as the hearse and motorcade, the casket carrying Charlie Kirk's body to the funeral home, is on the move. Here's a live look right now. We're taking these aerials, and we're going to take a quick break and reset at the top of the 5:30 half hour. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Watch AT play